Hey guys, tonight we're going to try something absolutely ridiculous, surviving a night in the Sahara Desert with nothing but a camel and a song. Picture this, a golden sea of shifting dunes, the air shimmering with heat, not a tree or telephone pole in sight. You're standing ankle-deep in sand. The sun is punishing you like it holds a personal grudge, and your only companion is a camel named Baraka, who seems disinterested in your existence. You're lost, by the way. Let's not sugarcoat it. You don't know where you are, your phone is as useful as a rock, no signal, obviously, and Google Maps has tapped out. In fact, your GPS last whispered, recalculating, before giving up completely. You've got a cracked canteen, half a granola bar, and a vague memory that people used to sing to their camels to keep going. This is your life now. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you're still awake at this point, drop your location and the local time in the comments. It's always fun to see where everyone's falling asleep from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Baraka shifts beside you, his leathery eyelid blinking in slow judgment. He smells earthy, which is a nice way of saying he smells like dried sweat, sand, and camel drool. You pat his side like you've seen in documentaries. He burps in response. Great start. The horizon stretches in all directions. There's no road, no trail, just dunes, sculpted like waves, some cresting tall and proud, others like crumbled sand castles left to melt under a sun that's only just beginning to flex its muscles. You start walking, because standing still just feels wrong. Your boots fill with sand immediately. You try to empty them, only to realize this will be your life for the foreseeable future. Sand in your socks, sand in your teeth, sand in your... Well, let's just say you'll be exfoliated by morning. The Sahara isn't just a desert, it's the desert. Stretching over 9 million square kilometers, it's bigger than the United States. People forget that. They imagine a few dunes and a scorpion or two. But out here, it's you versus a landscape so vast it once swallowed entire Roman outposts. Yes, actual Roman forts were abandoned and buried out here. Historians still argue whether the soldiers died from thirst or boredom, or whether the two are even different things. You think about the Tuareg, the blue-cloaked nomads who've made this land their home for centuries. They navigate with the stars, read the wind, and make it look so easy. You are not Tuareg. You are sunburned and slightly panicked. Baraka snorts and begins to move. You take that as encouragement and follow, even though you both clearly have no plan. You hum a little, partly to break the silence, partly to calm yourself. It's an old song, something your grandma used to sing. Somehow it feels right here. The sound floats up into the sky and disappears. The camel twitches an ear. Progress. You're starting to understand why ancient desert travelers talk to their camels. It's not just for company, it's a coping mechanism. Some Berber tribes believed their camels could see jinn, spirits that wandered the sands. A spooked camel wasn't just a nuisance, it was a warning. You glance at Baraka. He seems perfectly bored. That's comforting. The heat intensifies. The sun climbs higher, and the air starts to shimmer like cellophane. You feel it in your bones. This day is going to be long. You shift your scarf tighter around your head and remind yourself, one step at a time. That's all the desert allows. And maybe, just maybe, a little song. The sun rises like a forge door creaking open, spilling molten light across the sand. Every grain seems to glow. You squint against the glare, but it's no use. Your eyes sting. Your lips are already dry, and the heat radiates not just from above but from below. The ground itself is cooking. You shuffle forward, one plodding step at a time. Your boots sink just enough to annoy you, but not enough to trip. Baraka. The camel lumbers beside you, chewing something invisible, his pace maddeningly consistent. You envy his calm. Maybe it's the extra eyelids. Camels have these incredible protective eyelids with long lashes that can close sideways, keeping out the sand and glare. Meanwhile, you're blinking like a malfunctioning robot and fantasizing about sunglasses. The heat builds fast, too fast. Within an hour, the air feels heavy, pressing on your shoulders like a weight. There's no breeze. The silence is absolute. Even the insects, if there are any, know better than to be out right now. Historians still argue whether ancient travelers in the Sahara preferred to move at night due to the sun, or if they accepted daytime marches as a test of spiritual strength. Either way, you start to understand why people across history have described the desert sun in religious terms. This thing doesn't just warm, it judges. You check your canteen. Bad news. A little less than half. Worse news. You're starting to understand why explorers used to drink from their camel's stomach in emergencies. That's not on today's menu yet, but it does make you eye Baraka a little differently. He catches your glance and gurgles loudly, as if to say, "Don't even think about it." You try to think positive thoughts, like how ancient desert dwellers made use of date palms, which could grow in just the right conditions and provide food, shelter, even thread for weaving. If you see a date palm, you'll kiss it. If you see anything green, honestly, you'll cry. There's no shade out here. None. But you've heard of old tricks. The Tuareg, Berber, and Bedouin travelers knew how to find relief using the landscape. When desperate, they'd dig a shallow trench, just deep enough to lie in, and cover themselves with a loose cloth to block the sun. It creates a kind of sand coffin, which sounds worse than it is. You look around. The dunes rise and fall like caramel waves. Maybe one of them hides a pocket of relative cool. But first, you need to cover up. You unwrap your scarf, a keffiyeh you picked up from a roadside stall, thinking it was for fashion. Joke's on you. It's now your first line of defense. You wrap it tight around your face, leaving just a slit to peer through. Now you look like you're about to rob a caravan. The look suits you. You scan the horizon. There's a vague ridge that might offer some wind protection. Baraka snorts, perhaps approvingly. Together, you trudge up the slope. The sand is finer here, sliding beneath your feet like sugar. It's like climbing a treadmill made of beige. When you crest the dune, you almost laugh. The view is exactly the same as the last one. More dunes, more heat. Still no signs of life, except for a beetle crossing the sand in a hurry. You wish him luck. This is when you start talking to the camel. Not just grunts or commands, but full sentences. Baraka doesn't respond, but the act itself is soothing. You tell him about your hometown, about how you once tried to ride a bike down a frozen hill and ended up in a trash can. You tell him about your favorite sandwich. You ask him what his is. He burps again, probably means hummus. You remember something about ancient caravans carrying salt, literal slabs of it, across this desert, using camels like Baraka to haul it mile after mile. Salt was so valuable, it was sometimes traded ounce for ounce with gold. That's why Timbuktu, once a city of scholars and books, thrived at the edge of this world. Trade moved through the Sahara like a slow heartbeat, pulsing wealth and ideas across continents. Now, it's just you and the camel. You finally give in. You dig. The process is slow, scraping, pushing, shaping the hot sand into a shallow basin just big enough to lie down in. You throw your scarf over the top like a lazy roof and curl underneath, pressing your back into the warm ground. It's not cool, exactly, but it's less murderously hot. You rest there, blinking through the fabric at the blinding sky. You sip one cautious mouthful of water. You let Baraka sit beside you, groaning softly like a grumpy accordion. You're still in the middle of nowhere, but you've got shade, a camel, and maybe a song coming back into your head. You hum softly, lying in your sand trench like a burrito someone forgot in the sun. It's not exactly a concert venue, but the camel seems to tolerate your singing. Maybe he thinks you're trying to communicate. Maybe he's too heat-stunned to care. Either way, it feels oddly comforting. Something human in a place that doesn't much care whether humans exist. The sand shifts beneath you with every breeze, subtle but constant. It's a living landscape. You read once that Saharan dunes can walk across the desert, moving meters every year with the wind. Some nomads used to mark their camps with stones, only to return months later and find the landmarks completely buried. Historians still argue whether entire settlements vanished this way, or if people just got bored of the sand and left. You pull yourself up slowly, sand cascading off your clothes like flour. The scarf around your face is damp with sweat now. Gross, yes, but functional. Baraka rises too, unfolding like a broken deck chair. He shakes himself, which means you get a face full of camel dust. Charming. Time to move. Your oasis of shade has served its brief purpose. The sky above remains a cruel blue. The sun, now higher, seems to thrum with heat. You'd swear the air makes a faint ringing sound, like distant singing bowls. But that might just be your brain starting to steam. You trudge again, feet sinking in the hot sand, the landscape rippling ahead. Dune after dune, no end in sight. And then the sand moves. It starts as a ripple, almost imperceptible. A flicker of movement from the corner of your eye. You freeze. Baraka freezes. You both watch as the dune ahead seems to sigh. A shimmer glides across the crest. Not wind. Something alive. Then, with a rush, a dust devil spins into existence, like a miniature tornado made entirely of sand and sass. It dances across the slope, kicking up grains, whirling in an unpredictable zigzag. These things are common out here. The Tuareg call them Jinn al-Rih, wind spirits. Some even greet them politely to avoid offending them. You nod solemnly. Hello, tiny whirlwind. Please don't blast sand into my ears. The dust devil loses interest and flits off, spinning down the next ridge. You sigh, relieved. You glance at Baraka, who seems entirely unbothered. Of course, more walking. The camel pads alongside, his feet designed for this world. Wide, leathery, unbothered by heat. Your own feet? Boiling. You imagine them turning into pita bread inside your boots. You try not to think about it. You crest another dune, and another. The pattern repeats until it no longer feels like progress, just movement. You begin to understand how people could go mad out here. Everything looks the same. The scale is deceiving. What seems like a 10-minute walk becomes a full hour. You're convinced the dunes are laughing at you, probably in French. And then you see it, a flicker of light on the horizon, a shimmer, a promise. Water? You blink. It stays. You squint. It wobbles. A long silver line just beyond the next rise. You surge forward, hope rekindled, stumbling up the sand, heart thudding in your throat. And then it's gone. Just like that. The lake vanishes, replaced by more sand and more sky. You've hit your first mirage. They're not hallucinations, by the way. They're real optical phenomena caused by light bending as it passes through layers of hot air. The result? Your brain thinks there's water where there's just air and regret. Romans thought mirages were tricks of the gods. Later travelers blamed desert spirits or magic. Historians still argue whether mirages ever lured entire caravans off course, or if that's just bedtime story stuff told around fires lit with camel dung. You sit down, laughing, bitter, amused, a little broken. Baraka stares at you. He saw that fake lake too, didn't he? Your voice cracks as you start humming again. It's an old desert tune you barely remember. Something rhythmic, simple. You hum for your own sake now, trying to tether yourself to reality. Camels, it turns out, do respond to song. Caravanners across the Sahara used chants, called huda, to soothe their camels and maintain pace. Each tribe had its own rhythm, passed down orally. Some were lullabies, others practically lull slaps, urging beasts and men forward when spirits waned. You hum louder. Baraka keeps walking. The sun continues its cruel arc, and you, heat-struck, sand-salted, mirage-humbled, follow your camel's shadow. Your feet have officially gone on strike. They're no longer delivering status updates, just silent, throbbing disapproval. You pause at the base of a dune, lean against Baraka, and let your legs do a slow jelly wobble. The sun has passed its peak, but that only means it's shifted from scorch to bake. You mutter something under your breath, perhaps a prayer, perhaps an insult to the sun. Either way, Baraka groans sympathetically. It's clear he's seen this all before. You envy that calm. You envy his eyelashes. You envy everything about him, except the smell. What you need is shade. Not the kind you want, like a palm-fringed oasis with ice water and lounge music, but the kind that exists. In the desert, that usually means improvisation. So, you get to work. You remember the desert trick from earlier. The sand trench. Time for version 2.0. You search for a small dip between dunes, a place where the wind has carved a natural hollow. The sand here is finer, softer. You kneel and start scooping. Not digging, really, more like shaping. The goal is to create a shallow depression, just enough to duck under the worst of the heat. The key is depth, not width. You don't want a sand palace, just a place to pretend the sun doesn't exist. Baraka sits nearby, folding his legs in that weird origami way camels do. He watches you work like a lazy supervisor. Occasionally, he lets out a huff that sounds like passive judgment. As you dig, the sun seems to pulse. You get that odd sensation, part headache, part hallucination. It's common, you tell yourself. Desert sunstroke can sneak up like a bad email. That's why old desert travelers used layers, robes, scarves, loose clothing. The goal isn't less fabric, it's more air between you and the sun. You slide into your trench like a sunburned loaf sliding into a bread pan. You toss your scarf over your head, tenting it to create a fragile dome of shade. It's not cool, but it's less hot. And in the Sahara, that's the only metric that matters. You close your eyes for a moment. Then, the sound hits. A kind of slow grind, like someone dragging a rake through gravel. You lift the scarf slightly and peer out. It's the wind, not a full-blown sandstorm, but a warning, a test version. The air dances. Grains of sand begin to drift sideways. The desert isn't angry yet, but it's thinking about it. You pull the scarf tighter, shielding your nose and mouth. It smells like dust and camel sweat. Here's something fun. The Sahara wasn't always a desert. Thousands of years ago, it was a lush green savanna with lakes, hippos, and ancient cave art to prove it. Climate change, prehistoric edition, gradually turned it into the arid sea you're lying in now. Historians still argue how fast it happened and what role humans might have played. But the shift was real and brutal, kind of like the current breeze. The wind picks up. You hunker down. Baraka does too. Sand creeps into your collar, your boots, your ears. You hum again, soft and slow, trying to keep your brain from unraveling. A lullaby for no one in particular. And then the wind eases. Not gone, but resting, like a cat deciding it's not worth the trouble. You emerge from your trench like a crumpled napkin, coated in beige. Your water is lower, your spirits unclear, but you're still moving. You glance at Baraka, who stretches and snorts like a yoga instructor who's above it all. He stands. You follow. The wind left a new trail in the sand, tiny ripples like the inside of a seashell. You step carefully, pretending those lines are a path. Maybe they are. Maybe the desert is guiding you, or mocking you, hard to say. And then, miracle of miracles, you see it. A shadow, small, slanted, utterly unremarkable, but real. You squint. It's a rock, a big one. Somehow it hasn't been swallowed by the dunes. It juts out at an angle, casting a modest triangle of shade. You nearly cry. Baraka sees it too. He speeds up. You both arrive at the rock like pilgrims. You collapse into its shadow, a blissful 3-foot escape from the solar apocalypse. Baraka circles and lowers himself again, close enough to share the shade. Here, finally, you exhale. You let your body sag. You hum a bit. You sip a tiny ration of water. You brush sand off your tongue. For a few minutes, maybe more, the world becomes small and still. A rock, a camel, a song. And that's just enough. You wake up, not suddenly, but slowly, like dough rising under a dish towel. The air is different. The sun has dropped slightly, and with it, the world has shifted from full broil to medium roast. The rock's shadow has stretched, offering a bit more coverage, and Baraka is chewing something invisible again, because that's what he does. You stretch, grit crackling in every fold of clothing. Somehow you've managed to nap in the Sahara, which feels like an achievement deserving a medal, or at least a cold towel and a fruit smoothie. But no such luck. Just you, Baraka, and an afternoon that promises to be slightly less unbearable. Your stomach growls, a hollow, echoing complaint. Food. Right. You rummage through your satchel, hopeful. You find a shriveled date, a cracked biscuit that may have been part of a military ration pack, and a melted chunk of something that was once chocolate. Feast of kings, this is not. You break the biscuit in half and offer a piece to Baraka. He sniffs it, then looks at you like you've insulted his ancestors. You eat alone. Food in the desert has always been about survival, not pleasure. Ancient traders lived on dates, hard bread, and salted meat. Some drank butter tea, a mixture of black tea, salt, and yak butter. Sounds weird, tastes weirder, but it's loaded with fat and salt, which is exactly what your body needs out here. You try to imagine sipping butter tea beneath a Saharan moon. You don't get far. You're still stuck on the word butter. You chew the biscuit slowly, sipping water between bites. The taste is bland, but comforting. It reminds you that you're still here, still trying, still not entirely cooked. Then comes the noise. It starts small, a click, like a snapping twig. But there are no twigs out here. Then another, a rattle, a soft grind of sand against sand. You freeze mid-chew. Baraka lifts his head. Something is moving. You hold your breath and peer over the rock. Nothing. Just the dunes, stretching out like lazy ocean swells. You wait. Listen. Still nothing. Maybe it's in your head. Maybe the heat's playing tricks again. You resume chewing. More clicking. And there it is. A lizard. A long, pale, whisper-fast blur, scuttling across the sand. You exhale, almost laugh. He's just out for an afternoon jog. You nod respectfully. He vanishes under the sand like a magician. In the distance, the dunes begin to shift color. That golden afternoon glow starts to creep in. The desert has moods, bright and brutal at midday, honey-colored and almost gentle as evening approaches. You and Baraka rise again, and now you sing. Not a concert, not a ballad, just a slow, steady hum, the kind that settles into your chest and vibrates just behind your teeth. It's almost a drone, rhythmic, meditative. Ancient travelers believed songs could guide a caravan better than any map. Melodies served as timers, marching paces, even subtle messages. Some even claimed certain notes soothed the wind spirits. Historians still argue whether these musical traditions developed independently across cultures or were traded like spices and silk. You're no expert, but your tune is doing something. Baraka walks beside you without protest. The dunes feel less endless. Your own mind seems calmer, less frantic, a little more present. You picture other travelers, centuries ago, doing exactly this, walking beside a camel, humming softly, hoping the next rise might hold a tree, a well, a smile. Your feet still hurt, your throat is still dry, but somehow the song carries you. Even without an audience, even without applause, even without a single verse, just hum, step, hum, step. As you crest the next dune, you pause. The wind is picking up again, not dangerously, but enough to tickle your ears, enough to carry your song out into the dunes. Maybe someone else will hear it, maybe not, but Baraka seems pleased. And for now, that's enough. The tune still lingers on your lips, even as the wind nudges it sideways, scattering it like powder over the dunes. Baraka plods forward, his soft-footed steps pressing crescent moons into the sand. You follow, your rhythm now synced with his. Two stubborn creatures, one slightly sweatier than the other. You're not sure why you keep singing. Maybe it's tradition, maybe it's survival. Maybe it's just to keep your brain from melting into camel feed. But it works. And strangely, it begins to feel ancestral. Like you're stepping into someone else's footprints, maybe dozens of someone's, stretched back over centuries. The Sahara has always been a crossroads, despite seeming like the end of the world. Caravans of traders once crossed it from Morocco to Timbuktu, carrying gold, salt, ivory, and ideas. They traveled by night, guided by stars and song, forming vast trains of camels called mullahs, some stretching for miles. Music wasn't optional, it was essential. A map made from melody. You imagine your little caravan, one camel, one delirious human, joining that ancient rhythm. You give your song a little sway, letting it carry your feet. You feel ridiculous. You also feel less alone. Baraka makes a soft gurgle. His ears twitch. You pause. The landscape has shifted again. The dunes here are smoother, wind-brushed to a fine polish. Shadows lengthen at their feet, violet and blue against the gold. And just up ahead, nestled in the curve of a low dune, is a flat patch of compacted sand. It's nothing much, just a stretch where the wind hasn't sculpted, but to your sun-slowed brain, it looks like a stage. So you stop, and you sing, really sing. You let the tune out, slow and shaky at first, but it builds. You don't know the words, you don't need them. You sing for the wind, for Baraka, for every lizard and beetle hiding in the cool beneath the sand. You sing because the silence is too wide, and your voice helps fill it. You sing because it's been hours since you've spoken to anyone besides a camel. And frankly, you miss yourself. Baraka blinks slowly. You think that's approval. The song fades, absorbed by the horizon. You sit down, tuck your legs under you, and rest a hand on the warm sand. It feels less hostile now, still hot, still enormous, but no longer cruel. And then it happens. The air shifts, not dramatically, just a subtle shimmer. You rub your eyes. There's something ahead, a glimmer, a distortion, another mirage. You blink. It wavers. A tree, a tent, something vertical, but this one feels different. You stand. Baraka does too, which you take as a good omen. Together you walk toward it, carefully, skeptically. With every step, it sharpens. Not quickly, not clearly, but it's there. A pole, fabric, a flag. You pick up the pace, heart thudding. The ground flattens. The air is cooler, slightly, but you notice. Your boots hit something firmer. You stumble. A well. A real well. Not a stone ring like in fairy tales, but a primitive desert kind. Just a circular depression, lined with stones, covered with wood and cloth to keep the sand out. There's a rope, a bucket, even a few scattered footprints. Baraka grunts in what can only be described as smugness. You fall to your knees, brush sand from the edge, and peer in. Darkness, depth, a faint scent, earthy, mineral, wet, water. Your hands shake as you haul up the bucket. It creaks and groans, but it moves. The rope burns your palms. You don't care. You lower the bucket for Baraka first. He slurps greedily. You wait. You watch. He doesn't die. That's your signal. You drink, and it's the best water you've ever had. Cool, gritty, real. You exhale through a laugh that feels almost dangerous. Relief floods through you like a second drink. This wasn't on the map. Nothing was on the map. But here it is. A secret, an offering, a whisper from the desert saying, "Fine, you can have this one." You collapse beside the well, fingers trailing through the sand. The wind hums through your scarf. Baraka flops onto his knees with a sigh. For a moment, all is quiet. You hum again. Soft now, barely above a whisper. You don't know if you're singing to the desert or thanking it. Maybe both. You sit in the shadow of the well, chin tilted up, watching the sky shift from blistering blue to something closer to bronze. The heat hasn't gone, not exactly. It's just changed costume. Now it feels less like standing in an oven and more like curling up near the vent of a very large, very judgmental radiator. Baraka sprawls beside you, legs folded like a wonky card table. You absent-mindedly hum a few bars of your tune while tossing grains of sand between your fingers. It's strangely therapeutic. There's something about this moment, hydrated, sheltered, vaguely victorious, that feels like the desert equivalent of winning a game show where the grand prize is not dying. You decide to rest just a bit longer, maybe eat something if you can stomach it. From your pack, you pull out the last piece of your supplies, a slightly squashed fig and a packet of nuts that taste like sawdust and salt. Still, they're energy, and energy is everything now. You break the fig in half, offer a piece to Baraka. He doesn't even sniff it this time. Progress. The sun creeps lower, and with it comes a new kind of visual magic. The dunes begin to glow. They turn pink, almost coral, as the light stretches long and soft across the sand. Every ripple becomes a shadow, every curve outlined in gold. It's like the world is being painted in slow motion. You've never seen anything like it, and maybe never will again. The Sahara at dusk is not gentle, but it is generous. Still, you've got miles ahead. This well was a miracle, but it's not shelter. And night here is a different beast. You stand, refill your canteen, and offer Baraka a pat on the flank. He rises without protest. Refueled, both of you feel lighter, though your muscles disagree. You resume your walk. As you crest a nearby dune, something strange happens. The air bends again, but this time it's not a mirage. You hear it before you see it. A shape, a shimmer, a sound, music. Your brain immediately suspects heat stroke, but then you hear it again. Faint, rhythmic, a low pulse of melody on the breeze. You stop in your tracks. It's coming from ahead, far ahead, but definitely real. You and Baraka exchange a look. You know that look. It says, well, that's weird. You follow the sound, step by step, crest by crest. The song grows louder. It's not music in the modern sense. There's no drum kit or synthesizer, but it's rhythmic. Wooden clacks, a soft hum, a kind of chant carried on the wind like smoke. Then finally, you see it, a cluster of dark shapes, almost lost against the gathering dusk. Tents, not many, maybe 4 or 5, pitched low to the ground, with smoke curling from one. A small campfire flickers, and beside it, people. You blink. They're sitting cross-legged, wrapped in loose robes dyed deep indigo, faces mostly covered. One of them is beating a small hand drum. Another is clapping a slow, steady rhythm. A third hums something ancient and wordless. It's real. You've found people. Baraka doesn't hesitate. He trudges forward like he's always known they were there. You, less certain, follow carefully. No sudden moves. No camel-induced chaos. As you approach, a woman stands. Her scarf flutters like a banner in the breeze. She says nothing, just watches you. Then she raises her hand, a universal greeting. You mirror it. She speaks. You don't understand the words, but the tone is calm, curious, friendly. You gesture to your mouth, then to the water flask. She nods. Another woman steps forward and offers a clay cup. You take it, drink, just a sip. Sweet, herbal, smoky. Tea. Actual tea. In the desert. You try not to cry. The group invites you to sit. You do, awkwardly, cross-legged like them, back straight but shaking slightly from the effort. They pass around flatbread and a small bowl of dates. You take one, chew slowly. The music resumes, soft, sleepy, eternal. They don't ask questions, neither do you. There's no need. You hum along. Historians still argue about the origins of Saharan music, whether it began with the Tuareg or the Garamantes, or even further back with prehistoric tribes who once fished in long-dried lakes. But what's certain is that rhythm has always belonged here. In footsteps, in heartbeats, in the shushing whisper of wind over sand. You close your eyes. You are no longer alone. You have a song, a camel, and now a fire. And for the first time since the sun first rose over your cracked horizon, you feel welcome. Night falls like a curtain yanked shut, and the desert does what it always does. It flips the script entirely. One moment, you're bathed in bronze light, lulled by tea and soft drumming. The next, the temperature drops like a stone into a well. You're freezing, not cold, freezing. The sand that tried to cook you alive hours ago now radiates a chill that bites through your clothes. It's as if the sun, spiteful in its retreat, took all the warmth with it and left you to fend for yourself. You huddle closer to the fire, grateful for its flickering halo of heat, and try to stop your teeth from sounding like a maraca. Baraka settles nearby, tucking his legs underneath his body like a seasoned professional. You consider joining him. Not joking. Camels are warm, and frankly, friendship has to mean something out here. The camp is quiet now. The music has faded, replaced by the whisper of the wind and the occasional crack of the fire. The nomads, wrapped in layers of cloth so expertly you can barely see their faces, seem utterly unbothered by the temperature shift. You, on the other hand, are dressed like someone who thought desert meant hot all the time, and you are paying the price. One of the nomads hands you a thicker cloak, indigo-dyed, soft and heavy. You accept it like a knight receiving armor. It smells like smoke and spice. As you wrap it around your shoulders, your body sighs in relief. You hum a thank you, your language now entirely musical. The woman nods. You glance up and immediately forget how cold you are. The stars. There are too many. They spill across the sky in layers. No, oceans. Depths and depths of them, like someone shook a glitter jar across black velvet. The Milky Way slices diagonally above, milky indeed, but far more precise than you imagined. You recognize Orion's belt, the Big Dipper, and something that might be Mars, and then dozens, hundreds of others you've never even dreamed of. In the desert, stars don't twinkle politely. They blaze, they shout, and for thousands of years, people have used them to find their way. The Tuareg navigate by the stars to this day, teaching children the names of constellations and the stories behind them. Some stars rise only in certain seasons, guiding traders like celestial road signs. Historians still argue about whether prehistoric Saharan people created actual star maps on cave ceilings or simply imagined constellations into the same sky you're staring at now. You lie back, cloak wrapped tight, the fire warming your toes. You trace constellations with your finger like a child drawing pictures on a frosty window. The sky is too wide to take in all at once, so you focus on slices. Each cluster feels like a secret. You hum again, softly, following the shape of Cassiopeia, then sliding your gaze toward Scorpius. Baraka shifts in his sleep and lets out a tiny grunt. You assume it means, nice choice. Someone beside the fire begins to sing. Not loud, not formal, just a soft, low chant. Words you don't understand. A melody that winds around your bones like smoke. You listen. It doesn't matter that you don't know the lyrics. The melody carries something else. Intent, history, safety. You close your eyes and hum along. Not perfectly, not even confidently, but earnestly. And somehow, that feels like the right language for this place. Someone offers you more tea. You accept. The warmth seeps into your fingers, then your chest. You take small sips, watching the flames dance. Time stretches. You stop checking it. Your body finally gives in to the fatigue that's been riding your shoulders all day. You shift closer to the fire, wrapping the cloak tighter, half sitting, half reclining. One of the nomads, maybe the same woman, lays a soft mat near the flames and gestures for you to lie down. You obey, gratefully. The mat cradles your spine like sand never could. You glance at the sky one more time. It hasn't moved. The stars are still there, still shouting. You hum a last, slow note and let it trail off into sleep. And as your breath evens out, your last thought is not of fear or cold or sand. It's of the stars, the impossible, endless stars. You wake with the fire's glow still flickering across your eyelids. For a second, you forget where you are. The warmth, the smell of smoke, the faint rhythm of someone's breathing nearby. It feels like a memory from some other life, a tented sleepover, a camping trip, a dream. Then your back reminds you. Oh, right, Sahara, Camel, singing your way through existential crisis. Baraka is already awake, of course. He sits stoically in the sand a few paces away, chewing on something that appears to be absolutely nothing. You nod at him. He blinks. It's your usual morning exchange. The camp is stirring. Shapes move quietly in the half-light, bundled figures rolling up mats, coaxing the fire back to life. A kettle rests among the embers, and soon the scent of tea wafts over. You accept a cup. It's stronger this time, earthier, like someone brewed it with actual landscape. You're not in a rush to leave. No one is. This is a place without clocks. You sit with the nomads and drink your tea slowly, warming your hands on the cup. No one speaks much. No one needs to. There's something sacred about shared silence, especially when the sun hasn't quite cleared the horizon. Eventually, someone stands and gestures, an invitation, not an order. You nod, stretch, and begin to gather your things. They help you pack without comment. When you sling your pack over your shoulder, it feels lighter, not because it's empty, just less burdensome. Baraka stands with minimal fuss, as if sensing the shift in energy. A boy, maybe 12, hands you a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Food, perhaps. A gift. You bow in thanks, place it gently into your pack. Then comes the moment. You and Baraka step beyond the camp's edge, where the sand resumes its endless sway. Behind you, the nomads return to their routines, the fire still crackling in the dawn wind. Ahead, the desert yawns wide, but no longer feels as threatening. More like a grumpy roommate than an enemy. You walk, and with the sun rising behind you, you begin to sing. At first, just a hum. Then slowly, a tune. It's a little richer now, shaped by experience and sore muscles and one particularly judgmental camel. The rhythm matches your stride. The pitch follows the roll of the dunes. Baraka sways with the song. You remember how ancient traders believed music made camels walk more steadily, how songs were used to time footsteps, calm nerves, even keep wild animals away. There's one Tuareg legend that tells of a caravan lost in a sandstorm, only to be guided home by the hums of their oldest camel. Historians still argue whether that's poetic metaphor or just an excellent camel. Either way, it's comforting. You crest a low dune and pause. Before you stretches a field of rippling sand, golden in the early light. But unlike the dunes behind you, these are interspersed with low shrubs, green shrubs, actual plant life, and there, faint but unmistakable, is a path, not paved, not marked, but worn, flattened, a trail pressed by countless hooves and footprints. You've found a caravan route, maybe the same one used for centuries by merchants, messengers, and monks. Maybe the very trail that once carried salt to the empires of Mali and Songhai. You feel suddenly less like a lost wanderer and more like a participant, part of a tradition that sings its way forward. You keep walking. The sun lifts fully now, brushing the tops of the dunes with white light. The heat isn't here yet, not truly, but it will come. It always does. Still, you walk, and you sing. The tune has no name. It needs none. It belongs to the moment, to the motion, to the camel who huffs beside you like a tired metronome. And then something unexpected happens. Baraka picks up the pace. Not a sprint, nothing dramatic, just a purposeful forward motion. Ears perked, head up, like he knows something. You follow because, let's be honest, he's been right more often than you. For the next hour, the dunes begin to roll less sharply. The wind softens. The sand grows firmer, packed with pebbles. And far ahead, something shimmers. Not a mirage, not this time. You recognize the shapes. Low buildings, a wall, a town. Real. There it is. Real as the ache in your shoulders. A town, or at least the outline of one, emerging gently from the haze like a memory you hadn't meant to forget. Flat-roofed buildings the color of sand, rising out of the dunes like teeth. Low walls, thin plumes of smoke, and most comfortingly, motion. Tiny human figures going about their morning routines, unaware that you've just survived an odyssey worthy of bedtime storytelling. Baraka doesn't break stride. You're not sure how he knows where to go. Maybe it's scent. Maybe it's Camel GPS. Whatever it is, you're following him like a devoted intern on day one of a desert apprenticeship. You begin descending into a shallow basin. The dunes behind you rise like the crests of waves, and for the first time, you feel like you're leaving the open sea. The sand gives way to firmer ground, earth peppered with gravel, patches of dry grass, even the occasional scrawny bush daring to exist. Civilization is near. You can smell it. Wood smoke, dust, and something else. Maybe dates, maybe cooking oil. Your stomach perks up immediately. You hum under your breath. It's quieter now, less about rhythm, more about presence. You're narrating your return. Your voice is rough, your lips cracked, but the melody holds. It's carried you this far. Why stop now? A man on the outskirts of town spots you. He shields his eyes, stares, and after a moment, raises a hand. You return the gesture, more wobble than wave. Within minutes, a few others appear. Women in loose robes, a barefoot child, a donkey with an expression of profound wisdom. No one rushes toward you. No one panics. This isn't a movie rescue. It's gentler, more curious than concerned. You reach the edge of the village. A woman offers a cup. Water again, but cooler, clearer, carried in a ceramic bowl that fits your hands just right. You drink, nod, try to say thank you. She smiles, no words needed. Another man leads Baraka toward a shaded stall where two other camels lounge like retirees at a spa. He rubs the side of Baraka's neck, inspecting him like an old friend. You're guided toward a low building with a cloth door. Inside, a cushion, a mat, a jar of honey-colored liquid, and, oh glory, a bowl of olives, bread, and cheese. It's like stepping into a dream curated by your subconscious after weeks of hunger. You eat slowly, repeatedly, gratefully. Someone offers to tend to your feet. You decline. Then they insist. You accept. They wash away the sand, massage something herbal into your soles. You don't ask what it is. You'd agree to snake oil at this point. Time blurs. You nap briefly on the mat. When you wake, you hear singing. Not from you this time, from the villagers. A group of children are practicing a call and response chant just outside. The melody is simple, repetitive, but beautiful in its honesty. You hum along, naturally, instinctively. And there it is again, that thread, that invisible line connecting one wanderer to the next, one story to the next, one song to the next. You think about how many people have done this, crossed these dunes, hummed these tunes, trusted the stars, followed camels, lost themselves, and found themselves again beneath the same blazing sun and freezing night sky. Historians still argue whether certain routes were first carved by traders, soldiers, or pilgrims. But out here, it's clear. The desert doesn't care why you came, only how you carried yourself across it. With respect, with rhythm, with persistence, and maybe a few bad jokes along the way. You step outside again, Baraka now lounging in the shade, clearly winning the local popularity contest among the camels. You sit beside him. You place your hand on his dusty side, and you sing, not for show, not for survival, but for closure, because this chapter is ending. You made it. You crossed a sea of sand with blistered heels, half a song, and a camel whose emotional range includes 3 burps and a side-eye. And now, with the town behind you, the stars tucked away, and the dunes slowly receding from memory, you hum one final note, and the desert listens. You spend the day in a dream state, wandering the town's narrow alleys like someone who hasn't quite rejoined the world. Which, in a way, you haven't. Not entirely. The village is small but alive. Children chase each other with sticks and shrieks. Merchants fuss over baskets of dried herbs in clay pots, and goats bleat indignantly at invisible enemies. Everything smells like cumin, dust, and warm earth. It's chaotic, yes, but after the great blank silence of the Sahara, it feels like music. Baraka remains parked in a shaded stall with the other camels, occasionally honored with a bucket of water and a brush. You check on him often. He ignores you in a way that suggests both familiarity and low-key contempt. That feels right. By mid-afternoon, you're drawn to the edge of the village, where sand begins to reclaim the earth. A few buildings crumble here, half swallowed by the dunes. You explore one with curiosity. No roof, just walls of packed mud brick, an open archway where a door once stood. The floor is strewn with pottery shards, bone, and the whisper of old lives. Historians still argue whether these ruined desert villages were abandoned due to drought, trade shifts, or invasion. Some believe entire towns simply ran out of water and vanished back into the dust. Others claim they were temporary posts, meant to fade like footprints in the sand. The truth is likely a cocktail of all three. You walk further, alone now, letting the town recede behind you. Then you see it, a structure, ancient, square, nearly buried to the second story in sand, a ghost of something grander. The doorway is arched in the Islamic style, geometric patterns faint beneath centuries of wind-blown erosion. This wasn't just a house. It might have been a library, or a merchant's home, maybe a shrine. You step inside. The air is still, cooler. The silence returns, but this time it welcomes you. Inside, there's a slab of stone. Not an altar exactly, more like a bench. You sit. Above you, a crack in the roof lets sunlight pour in like a spotlight. Grains of dust float through the beam. It's peaceful, sacred somehow. You reach into your pack and pull out that wrapped bundle the boy gave you. You hadn't opened it yet. You do now. Inside, a small hard loaf of bread, a pinch of dried mint, and a folded scrap of cloth. You unfold it. It's hand-woven, simple, patterned in navy and ochre, possibly a napkin, possibly a keepsake. Either way, someone took time to give this to you. You fold it back, tuck it away, heart strangely full. You begin to hum. The sound echoes in the small space, soft and slightly haunting. The acoustics are perfect, walls of mud and history cradling the note. You switch to singing, quietly at first, then louder, letting the old stone carry your voice. You sing for whoever built this, for whoever left it, for whoever might still be listening. The song, simple as ever, seems to resonate. You can almost feel it in your ribs, a vibration that begins in your throat and ends somewhere just below memory. Then something odd happens. The wall beside you, bare, dust-covered, cracked, catches the light just right. There are markings, not graffiti, not decoration. Faint lines etched with care. Words, symbols. You lean in, brush away the dirt. It's a kind of script, ancient, maybe Berber, maybe an older dialect. You can't read it, but it doesn't matter. The message is clear. Someone was here. Someone like you. Someone who needed shelter, rest, a song. You sit back, humbled, and keep singing. Baraka is probably dozing somewhere nearby, waiting for you to stop being sentimental. But you're not ready to leave. Because in this half-buried ruin, you feel connected, not just to the living, but to the forgotten, the ones who didn't make it, the ones who did, the ones who sang anyway. And maybe, just maybe, someone else will come here someday. Find your footprints. Feel this echo. and sing too. The sun leans westward now, slanting the light across the desert in long golden fingers. You step back into the open, blinking as the brightness assaults your eyes again. The ruin behind you settles into silence once more, like it never held a voice at all. You and Baraka reconvene at the town's edge. He seems slightly more alert, though it's difficult to tell if that's true awareness or just indigestion. You pat his flank. He allows it, which you take as emotional progress. You've been offered a place to stay. A family with quiet eyes and sun-darkened hands gestures you into their home. A low, earthen structure with one room, 2 mats, and an oil lamp glowing softly like a sleepy star. You consider staying longer. Part of you wants to, but the desert isn't done with you. Not yet. You have one more walk left. So, after a meal of bread dipped in oil, with olives and a stew so fragrant it feels like perfume you could chew, you step back outside. Dusk is falling again, and you feel drawn toward the horizon, not toward escape, but curiosity. Baraka follows without complaint. You head out together, this time not toward salvation, but exploration. The stars are just beginning to flicker to life again. The moon, thin and high, glints like a blade. The sand glows silver. You walk. And soon, the wind changes. It begins as a low whistle, like someone breathing across the top of a bottle. Then it deepens, becomes a whisper in your ears, a rustle at your back. The dunes shift slightly underfoot. You pause, raising your scarf just in case. Baraka freezes. Then you hear it. Laughter. Not human. Not exactly. It's high-pitched, echoing, unsettling, like children playing tag inside a canyon. You know what it is before you see them. Hyenas, not many, just 2, maybe 3, shapes on a distant ridge, watching, moving sideways, then stopping. You clutch a rock. It's small, useless. You glance at Baraka. He is very still, ears twitching. That doesn't reassure you. Hyenas are opportunists, mostly scavengers. But bold ones. They've been known to follow travelers, waiting for weakness. In some parts of North Africa, they're even believed to possess dark powers, creatures of the in-between. Historians still argue whether these beliefs stem from their eerie laugh or their habit of vanishing into the night just before misfortune strikes. The wind picks up again. You hum. It's instinct now. Breath becomes melody, and somehow it makes you feel bigger, less like prey, more like something too strange to touch. The hyenas watch. One tilts its head. Another paces along the ridge, restless. You sing louder, shaping your voice into something uneven, unpredictable. Not a song exactly, more like a warning disguised as a lullaby. Baraka lets out a low, rumbling grunt. The lead hyena takes a step forward. You take one back. Another wind gust swirls sand between you. Your cloak flaps dramatically, which is kind of what you were hoping for. And just like that, they turn. Not frightened, not rushed, just done. They disappear over the dune like ghosts clocking out of a boring shift. You exhale. Baraka blinks. You both stand in the silence that follows, the wind curling around your legs like a satisfied cat. The desert is not without its teeth, but it gives you warnings. It tests you gently, then severely, then gently again. You turn back toward the village, heart still thudding in your ribs. The night feels thicker now, heavier, but safer somehow. You've seen the danger and sung it away. Sort of. Back in the village, the lamps have been lit. Shapes move behind cloth-draped doorways. Someone plays a reed flute, the notes wandering lazily like moths. You and Baraka pause at the edge of town, one last look toward the dunes. You don't know how far you've come, but you know this. You are not the same person who stepped into the Sahara with dry lips and one granola bar. You've shared tea with strangers, traded songs with stars, found a ruin, and stared down a laughing predator with nothing but a tune and a camel who may or may not have understood the moment. And tomorrow, you'll walk again, because now you can. Morning slips into the town like a soft-spoken guest. No blaring alarms, no city din. Just the rustle of cloth being folded, the clink of pots, the sleepy murmur of people greeting the day. You rise slowly from your mat, the cloak still wrapped around you like a second skin. You stretch. Everything aches in that satisfyingly tired way that says, you did something difficult and survived it. Baraka is already awake, of course. He's chewing again. You're starting to think he never actually stops, just takes thoughtful pauses between chews. You give him a pat on the shoulder. He tolerates it with the solemn dignity of someone who knows they're the main reason you're still breathing. Today is not about struggle. Not like before. Today is about movement, yes, but slower, gentler. You're not racing the sun or singing away loneliness. You're just walking for the sake of walking. You and Baraka take a meandering route out of the village. No destination, just curiosity, just space. The desert greets you like an old acquaintance. It hasn't changed, still wide, still golden, still humming softly under the rising sun. But your eyes have changed, your pace, your posture. You know what this land can do now. And you walk it differently. You come across an old trail, half buried but still visible, a caravan track etched by generations of hooves and hope. You follow it, boots pressing into ancient prints. It leads you toward low hills, where rock replaces sand and the wind whistles through crevices like flutes. There, tucked into the shade of a limestone outcrop, you find a surprise. Petroglyphs. Simple carvings, animals, people, circles that might be suns or drums. Weather-worn, faint, but unmistakable. You brush dust away from a line of dancing figures, arms linked in joy or ritual or just rhythm. You sit beside them, humbled. This wasn't some artist showing off. This was memory. This was music, frozen in stone. A moment someone long ago wanted to preserve, not with words, but with movement. Historians still argue what many of these symbols mean. Were they spiritual, calendrical, instructions for travelers? But some say the best explanation is the simplest. They meant something to someone once, and that's enough. You hum again. The same tune, or a new one. It's hard to tell anymore. They've all blended into something that feels like yours, even if it isn't. Baraka finds a patch of scrub to nibble. You take the opportunity to rest, leaning against the rock, letting the silence of the carvings settle around you. Then a thought strikes. You reach into your pack and pull out that folded cloth, the gift from the boy. Slowly, gently, you unfold it and lay it beside the carvings. A gesture of thanks, of recognition, one memory beside another. You rise, feeling lighter. You and Baraka continue walking, circling back toward the town, the morning sun now warm against your face. In the distance, a line of dust kicks up, another caravan perhaps, more travelers, more stories. You wave, though they probably can't see you. Maybe they'll find your footprints later. Maybe they'll hear your song in the breeze. You reach the village by noon. The air has warmed, but not yet scorched. Children wave from rooftops. Someone's cooking something that smells like roasted dates and almonds. Your stomach grumbles. You decide to stay one more night, just one, because the desert has taught you patience, and tomorrow will wait. Baraka settles back into his shady corner. You join him, and for a moment, you both just sit there, not moving, not thinking, just being. The wind shifts again, carrying with it a familiar melody. Your melody. You hum. Baraka exhales deeply, and the song, your song, rises once more. This time, not as survival, but as celebration. Evening arrives wrapped in amber and lilac. The village's earthen walls glow faintly, like warm coals under silk. You sit on the rooftop of your host's home, legs dangling, the cool clay beneath you, a soothing contrast to the heat you've finally stopped resenting. Below, the town moves in slow rhythms, children chasing shadows, women gathering blankets from rooftops, a rooster who clearly thinks he's a tenor. You sip mint tea from a shallow ceramic cup, breathing in its sharp sweetness. Your tongue has finally forgiven you for all the sand. Your shoulders have dropped a few inches. You're not entirely relaxed, but you're close. Baraka is below, stretched out near the well, chewing his cud with the stoicism of a camel philosopher. Someone has braided a red thread into his mane. He hasn't acknowledged it. You suspect he never will. The stars are beginning their slow unfurl. Fewer now than in the deep desert, some hidden by lantern glow, others washed out by town dust, but still enough to trace familiar lines. Orion, Cassiopeia, the Southern Cross low on the horizon. You hum their names softly, names carried by sailors, monks, and wanderers like you. And then, someone calls for you. You descend the stairs, barefoot and curious. A small crowd has gathered near the square. They sit in a loose circle, cushions and rugs arranged like petals. In the center, a clay bowl glowing with coals, and beside it, instruments, simple ones, a drum, a wooden flute, something with strings you can't name. A woman gestures. You sit. Another woman begins to play. The music starts slowly, rhythmic and soft, a heartbeat wrapped in smoke. The flute joins, weaving high notes through the air like threads of silver. Then voices, low at first, then rising in call and response. Old words, maybe ancient. You listen, then you sing. Quietly at first, a harmony, not a solo. But the sound wraps around you, lifts you, cradles you. You sing the song you've carried through dunes and wind and mirages, the one that began as a hum in panic and has become, somehow, something like prayer. People join in, not mimicking, merging, layering, shaping. And there, in the cool desert night, you realize something. This is how songs survive, not by being recorded, not by being owned, but by being shared. Whispered from stranger to stranger, softened by time, polished by repetition, carried across mountains and memories until they belong to everyone. Historians still argue how oral traditions preserved history through song, whether epics were remembered word for word or simply adapted each time they were told. But tonight, that debate feels irrelevant, because the song is alive. And so are you. You lose track of time, of verses, of yourself. When the music finally fades, the stars have multiplied, the air is cooler, the fire has dimmed. No one claps, no one needs to. A small girl beside you yawns. Her head tilts to her mother's lap. Someone covers her with a shawl. You rise slowly, not wanting to break the stillness, and slip away from the gathering. Baraka spots you returning and lifts his head. You offer him a flatbread someone handed you. He accepts it, finally. Progress. You lie beside him, eyes tracing the sky, and that old familiar melody returns. Not from your throat this time, but your mind. It hums through your bones like a lullaby too shy to speak. And as your eyes begin to close, you hear it in the wind. Your song, still singing, even now. Sleep doesn't arrive so much as unfold around you, like a slow desert fog drifting across the dunes. You're lying beside Baraka now, wrapped in your gifted cloak, The packed earth beneath you warm from the day, cooling gently as night takes over. The village has settled. Fires have dwindled to embers. Conversations have melted into murmurs, then into nothing. You're not tired, exactly. It's more like your body has stopped making demands. No thirst, no hunger, no urgency, just being. The stars above you are sharp and endless, the kind of stars that make you feel small in a comforting way, like you're a note in a song too beautiful to ever end. Baraka breathes slowly, deeply. You match him, breath for breath, until your chest rises and falls in time with his. A duet of survival, your thoughts drift back. Not just to the dunes and the wind and that first terrible, blinding morning, but to the moments in between. The lizard, the ruined village, the boy's gift, the strange, resonant song echoing from the throat of a stranger across a fire, and you, humming nonsense into the sand, hoping the desert would hum back. You remember the fear, the thirst, the moment you mistook a mirage for salvation, the hyenas, the cold that snuck into your spine like water into a cracked jug. But those aren't the only memories. You also remember the shade under a rock, the cool sip of water from a stranger's hands, the sound of singing when there should have been silence, the realization that the desert isn't empty, it's just quiet. You've come through it not with brute force, not with conquest, but with humility, with slowness, with a voice, and a camel. And now, finally, it's morning again. You blink awake to soft light brushing the edges of the horizon. No trumpet blast of heat this time, just a gentle golden yawn. The sky above turns violet, then peach, then the palest blue. You stretch, and your body answers with quiet gratitude. Baraka rises beside you, a slow-motion tower of legs and soft grunts. You pack your few things, your cloth, your empty tin, your folded memory of music, and tie them gently. You thank the family who took you in. They smile, nod, and offer a final cup of tea. You drink slowly, and then you go. Not because you have to, but because the desert has given you back to the world. The village fades behind you, slowly, swallowed by the low dunes. You and Baraka walk in silence now, no urgent tune in your throat. Just breathe, step, step, breath. The song is still with you, but it doesn't need to be sung anymore. It's written in your feet, your skin, your sleep. And in case you've forgotten, you made it. One night, one camel, one song, through a landscape that eats unprepared wanderers for breakfast. You hum once, softly, just to feel it in your chest, and the desert doesn't respond, but it listens. So now, as the final notes of your desert song fade into the hush of your room, let your body soften, let your breath slow. You've walked far tonight, across golden sands, beneath impossible stars, beside a companion who never once hurried you. You've felt the sun's bite and the night's hush. You've shared firelight with strangers and carved meaning into wind. You've endured, and now it's time to rest. Feel your shoulders melt into the bed, your jaw unclench, your hands loosen. Let the stillness that blanketed the Sahara now blanket your mind. There is nothing you need to do, no destination you must reach. You've already arrived. In your imagination, the dunes ripple in the moonlight. A faint breeze passes over your skin, cool, soft, carrying the scent of mint and sand. Somewhere nearby, a camel breathes slowly. Somewhere farther still, a song you once hummed drifts lazily through the wind. That song belongs to the desert now, but the quiet, that belongs to you. So close your eyes. Let the rhythm of the story give way to the rhythm of sleep. You're safe. You're home. And the stars will keep watch, just like they always have. Sweet dreams.